Hello and welcome to my humble house of learning, where today I want to talk about the civilization that inspired this whole project, and that is Delhi, of course, with its house of learning. Although today I don't want to talk about the house of learning versus Compare the Defender or any of that, but rather I want to start at the beginning and talk about the Delhi openings, because recently in Season 4 the Delhi opening has been changed a bit. Where people stop going for the double mosque with Tower of Victory, and yeah, people have been trying a lot of different stuff, stopping scholar production and so on and so forth. And I believe that rather than at the end, I think we are at the beginning of the way to optimizing Delhi and the way it is played. And today I want to show you a different way to do this opening that I think is a little bit more optimal and does a few things a little better. And I hope to get a discussion started and maybe optimize this way even more, because I do hope that Delhi is being played more and more in tournaments and on the ladder with the recent changes, and I hope that it's played better as well. So yeah, let's go into the replay. So here we are in the replay, and we will be going over this opening step by step, because I have made a couple of adjustments right in the beginning that will be relevant later on in the game. We will see the results of all these small adjustments in the beginning at 4 minutes in the game, at 6 minutes 30 in the game, and also at like 8 minutes 30. So yeah, let's go into it, and we have slow-mo on just to go over all the things that are different now. So at first, obviously, this is something that hasn't changed. We're going to build a mill right in the beginning. This is because obviously we want to get wheelbarrow immediately, and we want to get all the free upgrades with Delhi as quickly as we can, and that is why I also build a mosque immediately. So as you can see, 3 villages are building the mill, 1 is building the mosque, then a house, and then it's going to berries as well. And we have 2 villages chopping the tree. Now, this is probably the biggest change, because in the build orders that we've seen before and that are being played in tournaments and on the ladder right now, most people start 5 villages on the tree, and then 1 building the mill, then building a house, and then going to the berries. And the first villager that comes out is the one that builds the mosque and then goes to the berries, right? That is what has been done before most of the time. Now, I think most people know that it is actually not that efficient to chop a tree with 5 villagers, because 5 villagers don't chop the tree 5 times as fast as 1 villager would. So that's actually a lot of wasted time, and as you can see, I've rallied the first villager from the TC to this tree that has been chopped pretty much already by the 2 villagers that I'm using, and these 2 villagers have just finished their first trip, and now they will do their second trip. And once they've done their second trip, because I've rallied 1 more to the tree, they will have gathered 50 wood altogether, and then after their second trip they will immediately go and build the gold mine. Now, this way you are like losing, you are basically not losing, I don't know, like 5 or 10 resources, right? It's not a big deal, but you will actually see these small changes that I've made to add up ultimately, and especially with this build order you will have more wood than before, and that is very, very relevant, especially when it comes to mosques and then later on production buildings. So another small change that I'm doing that I don't think is absolutely necessary, but that I like, is that I go piety first and then efficient production. As you see, the villagers do what I've talked about. They drop off the wood and then they build the mining camp. Now obviously sometimes you won't get the mining camp right into the area of the mosque, The reason the mosque is built exactly here is so that it can cover the mill and the mining camp. This is nothing special, this is what you do all the time. But if the gold was, say, here, which sometimes happens, then it's also beneficial to have a second mosque as early as possible, or once you hit feudal. And so that is why we will be going for a second mosque, and why doing what I'm doing here, keeping one villager on this straggler tree, is actually a big deal later on. Now, I'm going piety because I like to have piety in case I'm against English or Mongols, and I need my scholar out of the mosque in order to heal villagers on gold or on the berries or whatever, to just have a little bit more health. It's also why I will not stop piety halfway through to get sanctity, which is what is currently being done a lot of the time. I want to have piety and efficient production done once I'm hitting feudal, and then immediately queue sanctity. This is why the mosque being built right away is a big deal as well. Also, I think that having piety once you move out onto the map is can be a big deal and can sometimes save a scholar's life. So that is also a big benefit for that, I think. So one villager keeps on the tree. The reason for that is that once I start rallying my TC to wood after 9 villagers on food, I will actually have exactly 50 wood for a lumber camp. The split that has been done before and that I've seen most of the time in tournaments is 8 on food, 3 on gold, and then rallying onto wood, with 5, going onto the first straggler tree, which means that once you rally on wood, you have 0 wood in the bank, and it takes longer for the lumber camp to be built, which then makes wood gathering slower. Also, there's no reason to go 3 on gold. This used to be not so big of a deal because you needed 3 on gold to have constant production of scholars, but since scholars are only 130 gold now, you can actually get enough gold for an additional scholar before or in feudal age, with just 2 villages on gold anyway. And in feudal you don't want to have any villages on gold, so there's no reason to ever go onto more than, as my scout is being harassed, to ever have more than 2 villages on gold at any stage in the first minutes of the game, in the first probably 10-12 minutes of the game, in fact. So I did unfortunately kill the tree once as it had still like 30 wood left, but it's not that big of a deal because this villager, this wood villager, that's a sheep, this wood villager had already been rallied to, shift queued to the tree line anyway. And the reason I did this is not just because this is obviously the fastest to build, because there's no walking distance, but also because these 2 villagers will eventually, once they have gathered enough gold for a scholar to be produced, once I hit feudal age, they will start building infrastructure. And so obviously I don't want to have them walk all the way here, but rather just build all that stuff here. Obviously queuing up forestry as well. It was a little bit late on that, but sometimes some people like to stop forestry halfway through and get double borax first. I won't be doing that this time, but I think that's probably fair. That's probably a decent optimization that you can do. Now I'm going up with Tower Victory. I think Tower Victory is good in almost any matchup, except if you want to hit a fast castle. I think people know this already. I think this is nothing special. If you're playing against English, you might want to go Dome of Faith, but I think in most other matchups this is totally fine. Even against English this can work, so it's whatever. Yeah, I don't know, the AI is for some reason running their scout into my TC, and so I killed the sheep, and then the scout didn't leave, so it just died. I'm building the mosque. Now, this is a big difference from what has been done in modern openings. I know that Lucifron and Vortex, for instance, have stopped building this mosque, but I am almost certain that the reason they're doing this is because they don't have enough wood, basically. So my 18th population, like on 18 out of 20, I built I built this house. So that's the 5th villager on wood, I believe. Nope, 7 already. Oh yeah, no, but I think it is. I think it's the 5th that goes to wood that builds this house, and then at 4 minutes, maybe even 3:55, you should have enough wood to build this mosque. I was a little bit late on it, but once I built it, like 3 or 4 villagers dropped off their wood, so I got a little bit unlucky there. Sometimes that happens, but yeah, so at 4 minutes you want to build this second mosque, and even though I'm building this mosque, I will still have enough wood to build a stable at 4:30, which is the standard time that anybody is building a stable right now. So this is because I've built the lumber camp earlier, and that makes the wood gathering more efficient. So I think there's no reason not to build this mosque if you have enough wood for a production building right away in feudal. Now, as I'm hitting feudal here, these 4 villagers will also go to wood. This is also a difference from what has been done before, where most people, I think, go on food with these 4 villagers. But you don't actually need the food right now. Instead, you need the wood to get all your production and your blacksmiths and all that stuff. The second mosque is also nice because you can get sanctity from it right away and produce the scholar, and then afterwards this scholar, right after this scholar, you can get all-seeing eye from this, and then they will finish right at the same time at roughly 7:30. Now I'm building the stable with 2 villagers. These 2 villagers will then go on to build a blacksmith, another blacksmith, and then we will see another big change that is only possible because we have 12 villagers on wood right now. These 2 villagers will also eventually go to wood. And I'm running onto food now. So these are the big changes. Right at the beginning, you get the stable, you can immediately get the horse, the first horseman. And yeah, for some, like I forgot to change this to assign scholars directly. So now I'm correcting it, and I'm getting all-seeing eye. This is like 5 seconds too late now. But typically this should finish right at the same time, both of these now. Yeah, getting the first blacksmith, starting the upgrades. Obviously you can start Iron Undermesh and then get Steel Arrow, but I know that because I'm playing Tower of Victory, I want to get archers eventually, and so Steel Arrow is good. Also building a house, and getting my horseman out. Second blacksmith, and I have enough wood now at 6 minutes for my second production building, my archery range. This is also a difference because in the current build orders that are being played, you will typically see sometimes people skip this second blacksmith as they don't have enough wood and they want to have their archers out earlier, or spearmen, or whatever, depending on the matchup. Obviously this first production building against French will be a barracks, and then the second one will be a stable. But the second production building is sometimes rushed, and then people typically leave the blacksmith, the second blacksmith, I'm sorry, and that will lead to them obviously getting their upgrades later, and then sometimes they add the blacksmith later on, but with this build order there's no decision you have to make. This is pretty clean. And you can get your archery range down at 6 minutes, and it will be done by 6:22, and then you can get your archers out. immediately as well. And then these two go to wood. And that will be 14 on wood then. Now, in the current build orders, you will see either people skipping the blacksmith, as I said, or they do double blacksmith, but then the archery range only is being built at 630, 640 sometimes. And that means that you basically skip 1 or even 2 archer cycles, or production cycles, which is bad. Now 14 on wood is obviously a good number because you need 5 for all your infrastructure, for your houses, your additional mills, your additional production buildings, and so on and so forth. This is nothing special. I think every civilization pretty much needs 5 for that at all times. And then with Delhi, you obviously want 2 additional villages for the walls that you want to build around the sacred sites. And that's 7, and then you need 5 for constant archer production and 2 for constant horseman production, and that's 14. And then once you have those 14, you're obviously rallying to food in the meantime, so that you can sustain all the production and villages. And as you can see, these 2 upgrades are now kicking in. I'm moving out at roughly 7 minutes, right? You want to move out. And I know that with the other build order, where you skip the second barracks, the second mosque, and build that one later at like 8:39 minutes, and you also skip piety and build sanctity immediately, you can be done with sanctity at 6:45, 6:50. But at that point, in this build order, you have like 1 archer maybe, and you have the same amount of horsemen. Maybe you have like half a cycle quicker, or maybe 1 horseman more at most. But again, like you don't have enough wood to even get the sacred sites walled. You don't have enough infantry to build the walls, and you don't have piety, so that your scholars are less tanky. And so I think this is an optimization that can be done, and that is a better way to do it, especially because this is all about tempo and actually being able to defend your sacred sites. So at 7:30 is when you can be on the sacred sites. I was like 6-7 seconds late here, which is partly because I messed up the assign scholar directly button, as well as getting out my scholars like 5 seconds later than I should have, but it's possible. And then obviously deleting the wall ends, which sometimes leads to these funky situations, but you can obviously re-wall that. And then you hit your 2 sacred sites at roughly 8 minutes. And as you can see, I can already wall 2 sacred sites completely without any problems at all. And from now I can move and get the 3rd sacred site, fight for 1 if there's an opponent doing anything against me, which obviously in this case isn't happening. Or I can decide to go castle or whatever. This is the sort of point where you can decide all of these things. This is nothing new. You can decide to get, at like 8:30, 9 minutes, you should decide whether you want to add another production building, like another stable or another archery range like I'm doing here, which is why I start rallying more to wood now, right? I now want 17 or 18 on wood instead of, and also 16, 17 on food for another archery production. But obviously if I wanted to go castle, or I wanted to build horsemen or spearmen maybe, then I would want like 20 on food and keep my 14 or then 16 on wood. Because I can stay with 14 because I don't really need 2 villagers for additional walls at this point. Even if I wanted to wall this, I don't need it immediately. And so the 2 that were sort of gathering wood for the walls can now gather wood for the stable, for another horseman or spearmint production. So that's what you're looking for in terms of that, but that's nothing new. That's the same as it has always been. Similar to how you can, if you want to age up now with the gold from the sacred sites, you can decide to go combat of the defender, probably in most cases, and all of that. I'm not going to show any of this now because this was mainly about this change, this small change in terms of getting, as I'm just noticing that this one also hasn't the assigned scholar thing, so small things that you can always improve on. But that's what we're here for, right? So the whole idea being you get more wood quicker, and that means that you have the 2 mosques built earlier. You don't have to skip it, you don't have to skip your blacksmith, and you can produce all your units quicker, and that means that you can get your walls around the sacred sites quicker, and you will ultimately have, I think, a slightly optimized feudal age, or early feudal age. So I hope you learned something, and maybe you got some ideas how to optimize this even further. If so, please let me know. And otherwise, keep learning, and thank you for watching, and bye-bye.